Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to week number 5 of the 100K challenge, the road to $1 million of personal income. The goal of this series is to show you step by step the actions you need to take each week so that within a year, ideally, you've added $100,000 of personal income on your way to $1 million of personal income. As my attorneys want me to remind you, your results will vary based on the amount of effort that you put in. I can only show you the steps that I took to get to $1 million personal income. You, my friend, must do the steps yourself. This week, we're going to focus on how to make it easier for everyone in your world to say yes, specifically prospects and clients, but also your team members. And we're going to take the weirdness out of talking about fees. And we will talk about the one thing that will cure all of your problems. So let us jump in. This works. Everything I share here works for me. It's also worked for a lot of other advisors, including Jim, who was able to go from 0 to 46 clients in 18 months. Just following these steps. Now, all credit to Jim. This guy is an incredible advisor. He works very, very hard, but he followed the proven process of success, which is find someone who already has what you want and just do what they're doing. Because if it worked for them, it's a good chance it will work for you. Who am I? I built a multi-million-dollar RA practice with a team of 2, including myself, or plus me, excuse me. So me plus 2. I host the Perfect RA podcast, author of best-selling book delivering massive value, and I spend most of my time these days coaching advisors on how to meet or even exceed my success. So let's jump in. Quick reminder from week 4, which you can find here on my YouTube channel. You need to be practicing your scripts, and you need to be fluent in 1040. In other words, you need to be fluent in tax returns. The best way to become fluent in that is by recreating tax returns in Excel so that you see exactly how that works. So let's jump into this week's 4 key areas this week. Put your comments or your feedback in the comments below if we should stick with 4 key areas, or really if this is too much for most people, we can dial it down to 2 or 1. Of course, the less you do, the longer it will take. But if you're not doing anything, you won't get anywhere. So we're going to get your next belt, if you're into martial arts, your next belt of communications. We're going to show how we can demonstrate 100% integrity. We're going to take the weirdness out of fees. A lot of us dread the fee conversation. That's because it's being presented wrong. And of course, we're going to give you the cure for all of the ills in your practice. So here's your next belt of communications. One of the areas advisors struggle, and I'll do an entire video on this, is explaining things as relatively simple as Roth conversions. And the reason that we struggle with this is that we add in a lot of jargon. I think a lot of this is driven by financial planning software, which does more harm than good in almost every case. So let's always translate this into terminology that the client understands. So we could talk about Roth conversions, or we could talk about needing a bucket of tax-free money. This, my friends, is how I explain this to every prospect and every client. I say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Client, someday you're going to need a lump sum of money. And I hope that it's for something fun, like buying an RV or traveling around the world or buying a second home or whatever it is. It might be for something not fun, like a medical emergency or long-term care. Either way, if we wait until that day to take out a lump sum of money all at once, say $100,000, we're going to get killed in taxes, because the way the tax code works, the more income you have, which includes money coming from your nest egg, the higher the rate that you'll pay. So instead of paying $24,000, you might pay $28,000 or $32,000 or $37,000 or even far more than that once Medicare kicks in. So we have a choice here today. We can kick the can. We can wait until we're backed into a corner with the IRS, or we can do a small Roth conversion each year. Now we can sort of bite that proverbial bullet now, or eat that elephant one bite at a time, so that down the road we have this bucket of tax-free money. Notice, my friends, I haven't talked about assumed rates of return. I haven't even talked about marginal tax rates. I need to get everyone's mind around this concept on the high level before I dive into anything else like that. Now, whether it's Roth conversions or rebalancing accounts or guardrails or buckets or anything else, you've got to have a script for that. Now, I just gave you one of my Roth conversion scripts. On this channel, there's a lot of other scripts. There's other great masters of script. My good friend Micah Shalansky, my friend Sten Morgan, which actually we have a script from him right here. My friend Michael Henley. There are a lot of rock star advisors that have great scripts. Borrow their scripts. Adapt it for your personality. I speak differently than you speak. Don't read my script word for word because it won't work, but write out a script and practice it 5 times a day out loud. And I'm not talking about think about it in your head. I'm talking literally in your car or in the shower or when you're shaving or whatever it is. Practice this script out loud until it's as comfortable as your name. So I can explain that someday you'll need a bucket of tax-free money, just like I can explain that my name is Matthew Jarvis and I live in Las Vegas, right? It's got to be second nature. When we add complexity, it confuses the client and it demonstrates that we don't actually know what we're talking about. Focus area number 2, getting what you want from others. In this regards, we're going to talk specifically about your team. This could be an assistant, an office manager, a paraplanner, another advisor, a senior advisor, if you're a Gen 2 advisor, whatever the case may be. There are 3 things that will help you get what you want from others, which is giving them what they want from you. Right? This is, what do we call this? The law of reciprocity. I can never say that word right. If I want people to deliver for me, I have to deliver for them. So there's 3 elements to this. I have to do what I said I would do. I'm always 5 minutes early for everything, and I have to prove what I mean. Now let's take a look at this here because it's important to distinguish. So anytime I'm meeting with a team member or a client or a prospect, ideally, I want to record that meeting. I'm going to have Jump AI attend. Shout out to our friends at Jump AI. I'm going to have Jump AI attend that. I'm going to have it take notes for me. That way, we're all really clear on what was agreed to. Now, this isn't about going back and listening to the transcripts. It's about making sure. Now, if Jump isn't appropriate for the situation, I'm going to write it down. So if I'm talking to a team member and I say, hey, Alan, I'm going to take care of this thing for you, I've got to write it down, or there's too high of a risk that I will forget that, which is now a breach of my integrity. Now, will Alan or Colleen or Reese or whomever in my team give me some grace on that? I'm sure they probably will, but I don't want to burn any relationship capital on me forgetting something. And so I write down every promise I've made, including, and I make sure I clarify this with whomever I've made the promise to, by when this will be delivered. So if I tell a client, hey, I'm going to take care of this thing, whatever this thing is, and I write it down, that's half of the battle, but I have to also set the expectation of by when it will be done. So Micah and his team, they always have hey, this will be done by next Wednesday, just as a universal rule. That way they know on Tuesday, they got to go through their action item and make sure everything's done. The second item is you have to always be on time, and on time is 5 minutes early, which means you have an alarm on your computer or your phone for 15 minutes early, plus any travel time if you need, so that you are never late or even just on time. This seems small, my friends, and it took me a long time to learn this. Excuse me, it seems small, but it demonstrates that whatever meeting you're having is important to you. It's not an afterthought. It's not something you get to eventually. You show up on time. It proves that you are committed to the situation. Always recap your action items and never end a meeting with anyone without committing to do something. It could be something small, but I'd never want to waste that opportunity to demonstrate that I have integrity. Okay, let's look at focus area number 3, which is stop making fees weird. Fees are weird because you're uncomfortable with it and you've got in your mind that you're not worth your fees. Now, some of that head trash will always stick around. Let me just be really honest. Some of it will always be there. So instead of trying to talk someone into my fee or to talk fast past it or to overwhelm them with information and hope that they hire me out of desperation, I just want to make this a really easy proposition. I talk about this in my book. And this is what I tell every single prospect, and it's what I tell clients if they ever ask about my fee. I say, hey, it only makes sense to hire a financial advisor, or really any professional, if the value they provide is worth some multiple of the fee that they charge. And our fee is deducted from your account as a line item every calendar quarter. It says advisor fee on your statement and a dollar amount. And every calendar quarter, you're going to look at that number, and I'm going to look at that number, and we're going to decide if the value is worth some multiple of the fee. And if your mind, the value is ever not there, it's ever not a multiple of our fee, then I ask that we can have a heart-to-heart conversation about what can be fixed. And if it can't be fixed, then we agree to part ways as friends. And as a gesture of good faith, if we ever part ways as friends, I will, of course, do whatever I can to make that transition as smooth as possible. And as a gesture of good faith, I will refund my last quarter's fee. Now, notice, my friends, we've taken all the weirdness out of it. I've just painted the picture. Here's what the equation is. Now, depending on where I was in the process, we'll talk about this in other videos, I would help set up a range of fees so they understand that fees range from 0, but not really, to as high as 3% or even more, right? But I've built these pieces into my script so that it's not weird for me. It's not me like saying, hey, you should pay me. I really want you to pay me, right? Like, I want to make this as easy as possible. This goes back to yet another script that we need to write down and we need to be practicing on a regular basis. One of my best resources I ever found on scripts, besides my own book, obviously my book wasn't there when I was starting my career, Nick Murray's books, Behavioral Investment Counseling. It can only be found online. Unfortunately, Nick quit printing this book. I gave away my physical copy of it, which I forever regret. I wish I still had it. But you can read it online. Again, write these scripts out, practice them. And anytime you meet an advisor who's doing better than you, AKA making more money than you as a result of delivering more value, ask them how they have this conversation or any other conversation that you dread and write down their script or record their script. I not long ago had a dinner with a very, very successful advisor, and he had an issue with his prospect process. And he said, hey, Jarvis, how would you handle this specific issue? And as I got ready to tell him, he said, hang on one second, I want to record this. And he pulled out his phone and he recorded it and he took notes. And then he asked me to do it again. And he then added that to his prospect process, and it made a huge difference. Now, this advisor was very successful already. He was already at the 7-figure mark, but he knew he had a deficiency and he hoped that someone had already solved that. In this case, I had, and he made that a very serious commitment. Okay, focus area number 4, the cure to all the problems in your practice is prospecting. The issue with your CRM or with your staff or with your clients or with your fee schedule is all because you're not prospecting enough. When we have a full pipeline of prospects, we have no problem graduating wrong fit clients. We have no problem holding to our fee schedule or whatever the case may be. You have to be doing at least 10 prospecting reps a week, ideally 10 a day. And our friend Alex Hormozi says you should actually be doing 100 prospecting reps every single day. Obviously, this is why Alex Hormozi makes so much more money than all the rest of us. He's willing to do 100 reps a day, even if you're doing 10 a week. So this, if you're doing centers of influence, this is 10 calls to center of influence. If you're networking, it's 10 networking invitations or attending 10 events. There's a lot of different, if you're creating content, you're creating 10 new pieces of content a week. These reps have to happen. They have to be tracked. If you're not tracking them, they're not happening. You're just kind of like, oh, I'm sure I did 10 reps this week, and you did 0 all month, right? It's like going to the gym. You think you're going every day, and then you check the damn app and it tells you haven't been all month. Oh, here's some more examples of that, whether that's following up with prospects, Dream 100, networking events, content recording. With the exception of content recording, it only counts as a rep if you can risk hearing no. This is a classic Nick Murray. I mentioned his book earlier. If I'm not risking hearing a no, it is not a rep. So blasting out 1,000 or 10,000 or 1 million cold emails, those are not prospecting reps. That might be lead generation. That might be marketing. It's not prospecting. Prospecting is me risking hearing a no, and it sucks and it hurts and it's no fun. And that's why so many advisors are broke and so few advisors ever make it to the 7-figure mark. So centers of influence, that means I'm calling 10 centers of influence and I'm going through the center of influence script and I'm trying to schedule a meeting and I'm risking them saying, no, I don't want to meet with you, even if you're going to pay me. Okay, let's keep marching on. To summarize this week, action items for this week, write down and practice your Roth conversion script, write down and practice your fee script. Notice a similarity here. There's a lot of practicing scripts. By the way, my friends, this is like whether you want to use the analogy of a professional athlete or a pilot or a surgeon or a performer or a stand-up comedian. They get up there and it seems like this is their first time running out on the field because it's so natural, and yet they've practiced these reps thousands of times, and yet we think that we can just show up. I used to think this as well, that I could just show up and wing it and it would be just as good, and it turns out that it's crap. And practicing is no fun and it sucks, and that's what separates the top performers from everybody else. Prove your integrity with your team members and with everyone else in your life. Always be 5 minutes early and do 10 repetitions, ideally a day, at a minimum a week, unless you're Alex Hormozi, and then it's 10 an hour. Okay, let's take a bonus. It's only sales if you don't believe what it is you're doing. So here's my bonus piece for you. Go on to Google and find this video by Alex Hormozi. I'm a big Alex Hormozi fan. I've spent $250,000 being coached by Alex Hormozi. I love all his books. I love all his stuff. You might not want to make that investment just based on the stage of your career, but find this video, the Ultimate Sales Training for 2025. It's 4 hours long, excuse me, 2.5 hours long. The other one is 4 hours long, 2.5 hours long. Watch the entire thing and adapt this into your practice. All right, my friends, as a reminder, your results will vary based on the effort that you put in. And so the time's going to go by either way. This week will go by, this month, this year, this decade, your entire career. And you can decide each day, am I going to do the reps today, or am I going to just let today waste away? All right, there you have it. And until next time, happy planning.